So hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this tutorial video, I will show you how to create a to-do list with the help of JavaScript. So yes, you are in a correct video if you want to learn how to create a to-do list with every single line of JavaScript code fully explained in detail. Yeah, which single line of code I'll be writing for creating my to-do list, I'll be explaining you in detail. So without wasting the time, let's start our tutorial video. So let's jump to our desktop screen. So as you can see up here, I have designed my to-do list. That means I have created HTML of it and I have created CSS of it. Don't leave the video. Most of the peoples and my channel do know how to style the to-do list. So I'm not going to teach that part because I'm not going to make this video more lengthy, because I will be explaining you the JavaScript code with every single line of code in full detail. So what I'm going to do up here is that in this video I'll be explaining you only JavaScript code. So we are not going to be focusing on the front end, we are just going to focus on the back end of JavaScript. So let's start. So if you need the source code of my to-do list, it will be provided on my website. You need to just go in the link description, just click on easy2code.com. You're going to come to this beautiful website, scroll down to the section of source code. You can see up here the section of source code, where now I've not added the to-do list item because I have not created it yet. I'm just going to create it now when I'm creating the tutorial video. After I will upload my YouTube video, you can see the source code will be available on my website. You need to just directly click on the source code and click on source code button. It will start downloading it automatically. It's virus free, so don't worry about it. Just you can download and use the source code for free. So let's start with our to-do list. So as you can see up here, when the user enters an item up here, it should be added at below in the list items. When the user clicks on the list item, it should be checked like this one. And we should add a cross button up here, which we have styled before up here in our CSS part. So when the user clicks on that cross button, the item should be deleted. So without wasting the time, let's start creating it. As you can see, after my UL tag, what I'm going to do up here, I'm just going to create a script tag, because this is just for a JavaScript code. I'm not creating a separate file because creating a separate file will not make it look unique and it will make a simple line of code. So I'll explain you in a single index.html file. Now what I'm going to do up here is that I'm going to create a close button and append it to each list items that will be created by the user. So if you don't know the JavaScript, don't worry about it. You can create to-do list because this video is in full detail. You will also learn some basics of JavaScript in this video. So now I'm going to create a variable. So I'll be using the var method and I'll be calling my variable that is going to be my node list. That equals to, I'm just going to select my list items by its tag name. So I'll be using document.getElementByTagName method up here. Now which element should be selected? I need to select this list items. So the list tag will be provided in a capitalized text. So I'll be using li. Alright, let's end it with a semicolon. Now I have selected my list item. Now I'm just going to create an empty variable that is going to be I. Now I will be using the for loop. For I equals to 0, our I should be less than my node list dot its length, and then I'm going to increment by 1. Now I'm just going to create another variable inside my for loop that is going to be our span text, that is just for creating a button. So we are just going to be using our span tag. Inside the span tag only is already styled in our CSS part. So I'll be using document.createElement method up here to create a span tag. So which tag I should create up here? I should create a span tag. So I'll define the span tag name up here, that is span. Now I'm going to create another variable that is going to be text variable. That equals to, I will be using document dot create text node up here. Does the create text node mean in more details? What I'm going to do up here is that I'm just going to create a cross symbol with some single line of code, and I will be assigning that to my span tag. So I'll be using the double quotes up here and a /u00d7. That's it. After that, I'm just going to select my span variable and I'm just going to append a child to it. That means I'm just going to append my Alright, so I'm just going to select my span tag and I'm just going to provide it a class name. So the button will be styled automatically because we have written a CSS code for it. So let's provide a class name that is going to be close, as we have written up here in our HTML. Not yet, we are just creating it. Alright. After that, we are just going to select our span tag and now we are just going to append it a child that is going to be our text variable. Alright. That means to our span tag that we created up here, we are just appending a text node that we created for a cross symbol to our span tag. After that, I'm just going to select my variable that is my node list, and I'll be square brackets and I'll be selecting my I variable. After that, I'm just going to append it a child that is going to be span tag. That's not finished yet. Now, that's not finished yet. When the user clicks on this cross icon, the item should be removed. That should be display none in HTML language. So let's save this much and now we're going to reload our page. As you can see, now we are having our beautiful cross icon. So you will be thinking how we got this cross icon, because I have not written any image or any font family, font or some link I'm using up here. That's because of this single line of code. If I just remove that code and reload my web page, as you can see, the cross icon is disabled. That means it's not shown up here. So let's save it, and as you can see, now the cross icon is block up here. Now when the user clicks on the cross icon, nothing is happening. So what I need to happen is that when the user clicks on the cross icon, the item should be deleted. So for that, we are just going to write a code up here that when the user clicks on a close button, we are just going to hide the current list item. So for that, I'm going to create a variable and I will name that variable that is going to be close. Then I will be using document dot get element by its class name. So what's the class that I provided to my span tag up here? That was close. So let's copy and provide it up here. That's great. Now we are just going to end it with a semicolon. Now we are going to create another variable that is going to be our I variable that we created in our before JavaScript code. And now we are just going to use for loop. Now we are going to use for loop. For our I that equals to 0, our I should be less than close dot its length. And then we are just going to increment our I by 1. Now I'm just going to select my close variable and I'm just going to assign our I variable to it. And when the user clicks on our span tag, so I'll be using the concatenate operator and onClick method. Why we use the onClick method? OnClick method means when the user clicks on our span tag that we created as our cross image, we are just going to create a function up here. When the user clicks on our cross button, we are calling a function. Inside that function, we are having a variable that is div variable, and I'm using this is a parent element. And after that, I'm going to select my div and I'm going to select its style, and I'm just going to use display that equals to none in our CSS language. Let's save it. That's it. Now we're just going to come back to our Chrome, reload the page, and now when the user clicks on this cross icon, the item should be deleted. Let's check it out. As you can see, the item is successfully deleted when the user clicks on the cross button that we created. So now the second and the most important thing that we are going to do up here is that we are going to add a checked symbol. That means when the user clicks on a list item, the item should be checked. That means we have finished that project successfully. Alright, so for that we are just going to provide a comment up here. Add a checked symbol when clicking on a list item. And now I'm just going to make it as a comment. I'll create a variable that is going to be list, and now I'll be using the document.querySelector. So why we are using the query selector up here? Because we are just going to select all of our UL list, that is our unordered list. So inside this I'm going to be using the single quotes and I will provide my tag name, that is UL. And now I'm just going to add an event listener to it. So I'm going to select my variable that is list, and let's add an event listener to it. What does this event listener means? When the user clicks on this item, it should do something. That's it, in a simple example. So let's see. When the user clicks on a list item, we are calling a function and we are passing it an argument that is done. That means we have successfully finished our project. Now we are going to be using the if loop inside it. Done dot, we are just going to be using the target, and now we are just going to select our tag name that equals to the list items. We are going to select it in our single quotes. That means now we are selecting our li tags with the help of a tag name in JavaScript. We are just going to select when the user clicks on the current list item, that list item only should be selected. Then I'm going to select the done argument up here, and I will be using the target and a class list dot toggle. And now I'll use my checked class that I have provided to my list item up here. So I'm just going to write up here that is checked. That's great. And after that, after closing this curly braces, I'm just going to provide it a boolean value that is going to be false. That's not needed. It depends on you if you want to write it or not. Now we are just going to reload the page, and now when the user clicks on the current list item, it should be checked. Awesome. That's great. Now we are just finished this 3 project, that is Hide the Gym, Pay Bills and Mid George. But when the user clicks on it again, it will be removed. Awesome. Now the last but not the least important thing that we are going to do up here is that how to add a list item in our unordered list tag. So for that, whenever the user enter any text up here in our input, when the user clicks on that add button, it should be added in our unordered list. So for that, let's provide it a newest comment heading that is going to be create a new list item when the user is clicking on the add button. So why am I providing the heading up here? I'm just providing a heading up here because when I will be providing a source code on my website, it will be easy for you to see which code, which single line of code, what it's doing. Alright, so no more discussion, let's create a function up here. That is going to be new element. Alright, so where I have defined this function, don't forget that, because I have not shown you my HTML part, so you can find it in a source code. So as you can see, this is our add button. When the user clicks on this add button, we are calling a function that is saying new element. So when the user clicks on this button, we are calling this function, and that function name we have provided up here, that is new element. Now we are going to create a variable that is going to be a list item that equals to, we are going to be using the document.createItem. That means when the user clicks on the add button, we are just going to create a list item. So let's provide up here li tag. That's it. Now what we are going to do up here, we are just going to select the value that the user have entered in our input. So for that, we are just going to be creating a variable that is going to be input value. Document dot, now we are just going to get that element by its ID. That is an ID that we provided up here, that is my input, and what we need its value. That's it. Now let's create a variable of t, and we are just going to use document dot create text node method up here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to assign my input value variable to it. After that, to my list tag that I've created up here with the help of its variable name, that is li, I'm just going to provide it an append child. That is going to be my t variable. What's happening? I will explain you. Don't worry. I created this variable in which I'm just creating a list item when the user clicks on the add button. After that, I'm selecting the user's input value that the user have entered in our title input. After that, I'm creating another variable and I'm using the create text node, and I'm assigning the user's value to this variable. Alright, that means it's stored in a t variable. Then to my list item, by selecting its variable name, I am assigning my t variable with the help of the append child method to it. So that means the user's input will be assigned to our list item. That's simple. Now we'll be using the if loop. If our input value is triple equals to empty, that means the user have not entered anything inside our input and is trying to click on the add button, we are just going to show an alert to them. That means let's show an alert, and in alert I will be writing a text that will be you must write something. That's great. Else we need to insert the value. So else we are just going to be using the document dot get element by id, and we are just going to get our ul tag id, that is my ul, and then we are just going to append our list variable to it, that is li tag. That's it. After our if statement, we are just going to create items should be deleted. So let's save it. Now we are just going to reload the page. Alright, so these are the default list items, so don't worry about it. So let me write a list item that is going to be a developer, and let me click on add. As you can see up here, when I click on add, the list item is added up here successfully. But the most important thing is that you cannot see the cross icon up here. That means you can't delete the item that you have added, but you can just finish it with the help of checked. So now what we need to do is we need to add the cross icon up here, and when the user clicks on that, the added item should be deleted. So for that, I'll provide it here a comment that is going to be created items should be deleted. And now we are just going to create a variable, and we are creating a variable that is span tag. We are using document dot create element, and what tag we need to create up here? We should create a span tag. A second variable that we are going to create is that is going to be our text variable, and we are going to be using document dot create text node to assign it a cross symbol up there. So front U00D7. That's great. Let's end it with a semicolon. Now I'm going to select my span variable, and I'm just going to provide it a class name that is going to be close. And I'm just going to select my span tag, and I'm just going to append it a child that is going to be our text variable. Then I'm just going to select my list item that is created when the user clicks on the add button, and I'm just going to append it a child that is going to be my span tag. That means the cross icon should be there if the user is adding a new list item. After that, we are just going to be using the for loop. For I equals to 0, our I should be less than close dot length, and now we are just going to increment our I by 1. And we'll just select our close in a square brackets. We are just going to be having the I, and when the user clicks on our close icon, we are just going to call a function up here, and that function we are just going to create a variable of div, and this is going to be our parent div. parent element. Alright, and now we are just going to select the div. We are just going to provide it a style display that equals to none. Let's save it, and now we are just going to reload the page, and now we are just going to test, do our to-do list work or not. So for that, for a good example, I'm just going to remove all of these added list items from here. And now let's add new list items. Let me add apple and click on this add. It's added. Now we're just going to add a banana. Let's click on this add. It's added. Now I'm just going to add grapes. When I click on this add button, it's added up here. So I add the apple. So I'm just going to check it. The apple is finished. So it's checked. If I need to delete any list items up here, I can just click on cross item up here and it's deleted, as you can see up here. So this is how we create a to-do list with the help of simple JavaScript. If you like the tutorial video, please do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and hit the notification bell, and the source code of my to-do list will be provided on my website, as you can see up here. I will say you again, I'll repeat it again. Scroll down to the source code section and you're going to get up here the to-do list thumbnail. Just click on it. You are going to get something like this. Click on the source code button and it will start downloading. Don't worry about it, it's virus free, so you can download and you're free to use it and make changes in our to-do list source code. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.